Hi everybody, it's Joey Remenyi from seekingbalance.com.au, and today I want to introduce you to Brylie from Australia, who is very bravely sharing her case study. So welcome Brylie, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
So Brylie, it sounds like you went on the journey that many of our listeners are familiar with, the diagnosis of vestibular migraine and question mark triple PD. And through joining the Rocksteady community and the online program, you've really come to that place of holding the diagnosis lightly and centering in on Brylie rather than the diagnosis, which is really the place I think we're all journeying towards.
Mm,
So, do you want to chat a little bit about what the Rocksteady program has meant for you and
mm,
how you've related to it and how you've used it to help you
mm,
move away from diagnosis and toward building Brylie?
mm. Yeah, absolutely. So I found the Rocksteady program in a really interesting way, actually. So I had a difficult conversation with my sister the night before, who's very scientific, love them to bits. And they were like, you need to fix this, you need to get this sorted. And so I got really triggered that night. And then the next morning, I just woke up with this intuitive hit to go back and check something on Instagram I'd seen early on in my sensations and my experience to just check in with that person and see if I could find their page again because they had a similar story. But at the time, I wasn't ready to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
It was really early on for me, and there was all these diagnosis words and things, and they also hold it very lightly and have a beautiful approach. But I just wasn't ready for it. And so I just got this hit, find that person. So I went onto Instagram, found that person, found the Rocksteady book, ordered it straight away. Didn't even think about it. Just went, yep, I'm ready for this. I need something different. I've tried to do it on my own for a period of time, and I wasn't really connected with the doctors or anything. I was just trying to figure it out myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this beautiful person, Alice, shout out to Alice, who's also part of the Rocksteady community. And she reached out to me and said, I know your story. Like, I've just heard you, because I posted something about it. Just share your knowledge because it's so important for people to hear your experiences in such a positive way. And so I wrote a story about that and tagged the person in it from Instagram. And Alice found it on there and reached out and said, this Rocksteady program is amazing. Like it's changed, the way that I look at things. And I really recommend you get the book first of all, and then consider the program. And so we've developed this beautiful friendship. That she's like a little sister. We're 20 years apart. We're just so positive and supportive of one another and using all the principles from Rocksteady. We're both in the program, and just having somebody there to remind you not to sink into that diagnosis side of things and to stay positive, but also share the challenges. It's been really nice. So that's something I wasn't expecting. And I know not everybody gets that, but it's been amazing for my journey, particularly.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Rocksteady program, when I started it, really for me, I just had a penny drop. And I'd read the book, I'd done all of that, but the program just made this penny drop of you, Brylie, have been avoiding things that are uncomfortable for you because you thought you were doing the best for yourself. And actually, it's okay to be safe in your body and support yourself to challenge yourself in different ways. And all the things that you thought were great and you stopped doing, and like I really stopped doing things at a point in time. I did the push through for about 18 months, and then I really stopped
Mm-hmm.
everything. And I gave my body the time to recharge. And then I was also so nervous to start driving and doing things again that I felt like were impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been kind of my journey for the program, has really been a confidence building,
Mm-hmm.
connecting with people to give me that support, and just sharing back what what I've got from it, which is just this acceptance and this, I can do it. I can have a go at these things. And some days I'm not going to do it, and that's perfectly okay. So it's just finding that balance. And I think the program's really helped me do that.
I was going to
Mm.
say, how has your relationship to yourself changed? It sounds pretty fundamental.
Oh, yeah,
Is
huge. Like, through the whole experience, I think all of us through something like this, you build a deeper relationship with yourself, but it's an understanding and acceptance of my energy, which has been
mm,
really groundbreaking. I'm actually an astrologer as well, so I can see it in my astrology chart where my energy kind of lies. And
mm,
it's really fascinating that I can see that and I can accept it with full, like, this is Brylie. And, this week I had to have 2 2-hour naps, which I was always the person who said, I never nap. I don't
mm.
nap. I don't like napping. But my energy just grounded to a halt and I just listened to it. And now I'm feeling so much better today. By the end of the week of just accepting it and going with how my energy presents. So just understanding, having acceptance of that and fully just stepping into who Brylie
Mm.
is definitely where it's come from.
And I
Mm.
think what I've noticed is when I was back in the day living how I thought Joey should be, which is really based on other people's expectations of me or what I've picked up in the outer world of trying to fit this expectation of how a woman my age should be or whatever. It was exhausting, and I suppose there was a necessity to push through at times because my truth
Mm.
wouldn't match that expectation. But fast forward now to where I'm able to listen and respond and support myself moment to moment, day to day. If I do take that nap or respond to my body, I'm always amazed at how quickly I bounce back. It's like
Mm.
because it's in real time and it's dynamic and there's no judgment there. And it's sort of like, oh, thanks, body, for letting me know what you need, rather than, oh, I wish you could keep up with everybody else, and that inner critic or that voice that could be berating me or bullying me. I think that's a really big piece of what changes is we're able to step into saying, actually, my body's really innately wise and intelligent. And if I tune into that and listen together, me and my body, we're this powerful team. And so we get access to more of our vitality and life force because there is that sense of alignment that we're growing and building with these rock steady principles and concepts.
Completely. And I've found too that then it makes it easier easier to set your boundaries, right? And set what it is that you need and ask for what you need from people too. And
Mm.
that's been another big journey of mine over this time is actually I'm just thinking about I'm going to a social event tonight and I actually asked them not to wear perfume. And that used to scare the crap out of me asking that at the start because that's just something that I know triggers me and I'm not
Mm.
going to show up in my full ability to join in the conversations and be me. And it's only a really small ask. And so I asked it of them. They were all fine. They're like, yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And it just gets easier, I
What?
think, when you just accept that.
What? I love that. Such a great example. Something I'm learning and noticing in this community is the power of speaking truth and being frank. Because it's not apologetic, it doesn't need this huge, lengthy explanation. Like, once we're clear on what we want and need, it does become very simple
Mm.
to communicate that. And even if it was English as a second language, we can communicate these needs because they're often so simple. It doesn't require an extensive vocabulary. And I think
Mm.
the reason it's difficult to do that for many of us, and this is an ongoing exploration, our boundaries and needs are changing year in, year out. But I think it becomes difficult to articulate when we don't understand it ourselves or we don't have that sense of inquiry, self study, compassion. So, coming back to the Rocksteady program and the modules, it's giving us that invitation to pause and check in
Mm.
weekly, monthly, daily, however often we find benefit, and checking in on our inner world and sort of asking, is this really pulling me into love, compassion, support, nurturance? Or am I falling back into dark spirals? Am I trying to be
Mm.
a round peg fitting a square hole? And we can start to question things and gain that language of truth. And I think keep it simple because it's not this overwhelming beast that we don't even know where to start. We've broken it down into smaller, simple, bite sized questions of what really matters and how can I learn to listen to my body. And essentially, the program's giving those skills and tools in bite sized pieces. What were some of the things you learned about yourself through the
Mm.
modules that may have changed and crafted how you're now focusing on your life and your direction and career, etc.?
Mm. So for me, it was definitely understanding, what triggers me. So based on those conversations, I really just like that module just to make it really simple. Write it down. I kind of already knew, but write it down and then keep remembering that. And then if you can avoid some of those triggers, great. You don't need to avoid your whole life, which I think is what I was doing more so. Um, and for me, it's really just been the acceptance that I've got tools in the moment that I can use, and that's what I love about the program. It's that habitual reinforcement around I can actually get my nervous system in a comfortable space in the moment if it's feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that's been a really big part of the program for me, is just having those tools when I need them. And then setting myself up with my desired states of what I want. Well, what's going to make that happen? Like if I want joy, for me in my life, I want to be able to drive. So, if I want that desired state, I need to push myself to do those things, because that brings me joy if I can drive myself down to the beach on my own. Like the first time that I drove myself somewhere, like I was ecstatic, like you could not get the smile off my face. And it's just that constant reminder, I guess, that it's the little improvements that you make, because it's not great all the time, and it wasn't just a big bang, oh yeah, I'm completely 100% well, I'm just 100% me. And so it was, the modules just continue to, and the calls and hearing people's experiences just continue to remind me of that and keep me on track. Because there was so often that in my kind of rehab journey early on, when I call it rehab, that like I was like, oh, I'm all in on these vestibular exercises for 6 weeks and it's going to fix me, and then nothing. Whereas I love that we get to continue to connect and do it in our own pace and time. And so I started the program in March this year, which is 2022. We're now in September. And I've only done 4 modules because that's my pace and I'm happy with that. So, it's that acceptance that this is actually a longer term thing for me. And
you've still got all that goodness to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still going.
2 whole modules worth. And can you share a little bit with the listeners about how you engaged with the program? Like, did you log in at weird times? Did you have a set Wednesday morning? How did you listen in the car? Like, how did you sort of actually day by day use the program?
It actually makes me laugh because I hear your voice whenever I go to log in. No multitasking. And so, I might be doing the dishes or doing something. I'm like, no, go and sit there. Like, actually, I've really tried to carve out space and say, no, I'm just going to lay here or sit here and listen to this module, because I'm very much an auditory person. I listen to lots of podcasts. I really love learning. And so, but I'm always doing stuff while I'm listening to them. So this has been a great way of me committing to the pace that I want to live at, which is one thing at a time. And it just continuously reminds me. So even though that's not necessarily part of the program, it doesn't tell you every time to do that. For me, that's the space that I've created. So it's when I'm at home, it's when I'm relaxing and resting. I do have the kind of mind that I don't need to be guided through the body scans and things anymore. I really like to do, that's probably my biggest thing that I do. And I do that, I'd probably say 4 times a day, just check in with myself and start with my feet and come up. And that's my way of doing things. And so, those audios, it's mainly the modules that I'm connecting in with. And I listen to the replays generally for the calls, which I love because I get so much more information from that and so much more experience. But the replays just work better for me. I have signed in live before, but I just like to that's early in the morning for me, and that's not the best time for me. So I like to just, listen to the replays as I'm resting on the couch generally.
I know, I just feel so blessed we have access to this technology that, I can be in Australia and people can tune in from anywhere in the world, especially using the replays.
Mm.
Um,
And
and
it's just as powerful. It is like,
definitely,
yeah,
yeah, I think there's a
yeah.
lot of richness in being able to click play when I'm in the mood and when I want to connect and when I
Mm.
might be feeling low or lonely, and I can go to that whole resource of the group replay section. And there's absolutely dozens of them now. There must be 50 calls. And so there's a huge library of resource to draw upon with people asking questions and sharing humanity and this sense of connection and collective healing. It's very powerful.
Mm.
And on the same
Yeah.
token, sometimes attending live might not feel quite right, and that's okay too because the options are really broad. How about with the various bonus audios and the little kind of what I would call the first aid kit of go-tos? Do you ever log in and explore any of the shorter content that's at your fingertips?
Yeah, and so when I do the modules, I definitely sit down and do the 40-minute audio to start with. And then I just get into it, and I just keep going down the list of all the shorter ones. I wouldn't say that I log in and listen to them another time. It's kind of my designated, I would call it almost like a sacred space of me connecting into Rocksteady.
It's
And
your learning time.
yeah, it
Actually, the
really is. And yeah, it really confirms a lot of things for me. And so then I take time to integrate that. Like it's
mhm.
at all levels of my body. And yeah.
I think I'm a very similar learning style. That everyone's different, and I really honor that. For those listening, we all have our different ways, and it's good to know how we best learn to capitalize on those kind of natural gifts and talents and modalities. But I also, when I go through a committed learning process, I'll try and carve out a specific morning, block that out,
Mm.
quietly attend to all of the content and, really let myself chew through what's there and maybe decide where I want to focus. And then through the week, I'll embody that and, not necessarily click play, but repeat things in my mind or in my own words and really make it my own as I'm adopting it. That would be my technique as well, which sounds very similar to what you're describing.
Absolutely. And I guess a little bit of background too, like I have a health background, and I've done a lot of these things before. So when I hear them, the tapping and the things like that, like I just go, oh yeah, that's it, but this is the way that I need to apply it here, and this is great. And so I can take it then
Mm.
and move through it. And I kind of put my own spin on it a little bit too, staying within the Rocksteady, guidelines, I guess. But
Mm.
that's been really helpful to say, oh yeah, this would actually help in this situation. Why haven't I been doing that more? Or
I hear that
this
a
would be
lot.
great.
I've
Because
had it.
sometimes we know the knowledge, but we don't do it. And so I
Mm.
guess that's where there's just so much to learn. There's just so much to learn and so much integration of how you bring it into your body.
Yeah.
That's what I've really found through the modules. Yeah.
And what you're saying is something that's really common. I hear I've had a number of psychologists and yoga teachers and mindfulness practitioners who'll come through the Rocksteady process and sort of be like, oh, I've had those skills, but I haven't known how to integrate them in sort of a fine tuning of neuroplasticity context. So it's about linking all of those jigsaw puzzle pieces together in a way that is moment to moment responsive and applicable. And I think I touch upon it in my book. We can be going out for coffees with friends or doing vestibular exercises or trying to be positive and optimistic, and we just get zero neuroplasticity impact because we're not really embodying and feeling those new neural pathways we want to build, and or we're distracting, avoiding, denying, neglecting the real darkness and challenge that may actually be in our reality, and actually processing and integrating and moving through the darkness with gentleness, compassion, support, kindness, and love is really essential to create that safety and space. Like if we want to clear the darkness and move through it and feel through it, create that space to then fill up with the new building blocks of the new mapping and the new neural pathways, the desired sensations. It's a sequence of events. So just kind of dabbling in a little bit of therapy here, or a little bit of treatment there, or a little bit of drug there, or a little bit of a hobby there, or a coffee date there, may not really get that overall impact because it's missing that weaving of the fine tuning of neuroplasticity. So my hope for the Rocksteady program uses is definitely not that they become little minions or clones or robots of Joey. Everything's a suggestion and an invitation, and make it your own. You know, you can replace things, you can open eyes, you can close eyes, you can, you can do things in any way that feels really nurturing for you. And all of the exercise module ideas are there to be tinkered with and to be tailored to your individual needs in that moment. So it's really delight to hear you say, I'm making it my own. Like, yes, I think the
Yeah, I
critical.
relate to so much you just said, especially around like we can have the knowledge about what to do sometimes, but not realize, like you said, the neuroplasticity link and how effective it could be if you're in the mindset that you want to be in, if you're, concentrating on your desired feelings, not just going to coffee and thinking, oh my God, I'm so da 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 da. It's like, okay, what can I do in this moment of this day to actually help that neuroplasticity? And that was my missing link completely. I was
Yeah,
in
this.
protection, avoidance. I need to stay
Yeah.
protected.
Yeah.
Basically, it got to that point.
And often we want to solve the problem up here like it's a mental,
Yes.
mathematic, arithmetic, instead of dropping into the heart and sort of going, okay, body, I really value you as an ally. How can I support you? I'm listening. I'm here. I'm not going to run away anymore. I'm here to support you. And that's where Rocksteady comes in, and we learn all the skills and tools to try of how to bridge that gap, because often we don't know how to support ourselves, or we think we've tried everything and then we feel depleted, exhausted and dead-ended, and our self-esteem and our confidence is really flatlined. So we have to build that confidence up again of relating to the body and learning how to be the supportive figure for ourselves. So really.
Even that simple reminder in Rocksteady that really helped me was around your body's actually really intelligent, yeah, and it's helping you. You don't, like you said, you don't need your mind to fix this. You don't need to go searching and searching and searching. Come within and actually listen to what your body's saying, and also not see it as a my body's out to get me. And that was a huge shift. It's like I ate healthily. I've been on this way of life for a long time and my body's now out to get me. Like, why is it not
Mm,
responding in the way that I'm giving to it, but it's responding in this way? And just having that acceptance of actually it's trying its best to help you right now and you're not really listening. So come back in and listen
yeah.
to those
And I
prompts.
think to add there, it's not that we're not listening to our bodies, it's that we don't know how to listen to our
Yeah.
bodies. And I think there's I mean, I'm going to paraphrase myself here. There's a quote in my book that people often bring up, which is, it's not that we want to talk about our body, we want to talk to the body and with the body and listen to our body rather than just talk about it or talk at it, you know?
Mm.
And tell the body how we think it should be. It's like, well, can we accept the reality of how it is in this moment and fully show up, soften, open our hearts, meet any fear and resistance in the way, and be very supportive and loving as we really have to bridge a huge amount of clutter, confusion, overwhelm, possibly trauma through the diagnostic process, if not childhood trauma that invariably many of us hold as well, and feelings of unworthiness and shame, and perhaps feeling rejected, not good enough. And these are all bridges that we're learning how to cross really gently, and to be for ourselves, to be our own best friend, to be our own mentor, to be our own coach. And I guess, in building the Rocksteady process and community, while I do not believe it doesn't replace private therapy, and it's not designed to, I think the drugs and private therapies and devices and all those myriad of things people try, and it's okay that we try them, and they're great when they're needed for a temporary period. Rocksteady's kind of the soft landing point that holds all of that. So when we don't need the private therapy anymore, the Rocksteady community is still there, and the self-study and fostering this sense of a strong relationship to myself, that I've got this and I've got me. I outgrow the private therapy. I no longer need it. I no longer need the drugs. I no longer need the devices and tools and science, because I can drop into my body and I can sort it out. I can listen. So it feels like it's kind of this lovely soft landing pad. Um,
Mm.
after we try all the external supports that may be really useful to get us to this place.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. So I'm curious, Brylie, what are some of if you have any little aha moments you can remember, or any significant sort of changes and insights that you're now living based on the new Brylie, is there anything like that you want to share with the listeners? I
Yeah,
suppose.
for me, the no big deal thing for me was it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just it was the clincher. I had I had tried to push through, and then I'd shut everything down, and then it's like, actually, it's no big deal. It's like, if I'm going to feel the way that I'm feeling today and these sensations, I can start surrendering into that. And I think, with some of my symptoms, sometimes it's difficult to surrender because of, that nervous system's activated, it's really high, but it's still remembering in that moment, oh yeah, I can surrender to that sensation and that feeling. And so this will pass. And, I know I've heard that quote so many times, but the no big deal is just really something that I just constantly refer to. And my other aha was, if you don't start doing some things again and going into an uncomfortable zone that's still within your overall comfort level, so it's still not, throwing me completely off balance, but it's stretching that, then I'm not going to have the desired states that I want. So I can write them down as much as I want and I can think about them as much as I want, but until I start actually living them, Alice and I talk a lot around joy. I love her perspective on joy, that joy is just a way to heal completely. And so sometimes you need to do something that felt a little bit out of your reach, use your tools in the moment, and the joy you get generally is going to outweigh any sensation that you have. So that's something that I definitely hold on to from the wisdom of Alice. And yeah, it is. It's really the no big deal, and I need to start introducing things that make me feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, and what you're describing beautifully there, actually, from a window of tolerance point of view, is really staying close to that blue zone or green zone where your nervous system is still optimally firing, even though there's discomfort or even maybe a bit of shock or maybe a temporary spike into the red zone. You're able to remain in that witness and observe and breathe through it, or hold yourself or speak to yourself and bring in that no big deal language and inner dialogue that can quite rapidly bring you back down through the green and blue zones where you're still comfortable enough. So it
Exactly.
doesn't mean you
Yes.
have to avoid everything, because you can widen your window of tolerance, meet some discomfort. And I call it the gentle challenge. We want to be challenged, and actually, as human beings, a sense of challenge and growth is almost fundamental to the recipe of happiness. Without it, we sort of flatline and we feel a bit blah. So this idea of knowing how to gently challenge and not push through or force, or kind of skip over the gentle bit and just go straight into the deep end, that's an art form. Learning how to be gentle and relate to our nervous system in a really socially engaged and belonging, soft, warm, cozy, supported space. I really do think these are lifelong skills that we keep improving as we practice.
Absolutely. And just touching on that window of tolerance is definitely something to look at. That, well, what I did was look at it and go, well, I need to accept some things about me that right now are outside my window of tolerance. So I used to be in a leadership role in a corporate position, the 9 to 5 and managing lots of people. And that's just not where I am now. And it's not where I want to be now. It's not where my heart desires to be now. And so my window of tolerance, that's outside of my window of tolerance right now. And that's not saying that it isn't for somebody else. It's just for me. Like, my heart doesn't light up to push myself in that way anymore. And so now I'm creating my own business so that I can have my own hours and I can have my flexibility and I can really sit within my window of tolerance. Like you said, stretch myself into that that blue zone, don't get into the red and, the blue and green, and don't get into the red, and just make sure that I'm setting my life up the way that suits me, I
Yeah.
guess. Mm.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I kind of feel like almost doing the scenarios here because a lot of it is about perspective taking. And I feel like before we start the Rocksteady process, most of us don't trust our bodies. We feel disappointed by our bodies. We feel like we're a massive failure to ourselves and others. There's this really common kind of exhausted, depleted, why me? I feel helpless, hopeless, powerless. Is that kind of vibe going on in some way? And it's very common, it's very normal, and it's very welcome in our community. And part of the healing process is sort of getting beyond that and saying, well, actually, my body's really powerful and intelligent and it has a message for me. Okay, let me tune in and decode the mystery. And what I can hear in you is like at some points, I actually sort of had a crash as well in when I was working at the University of Melbourne, mainstream 9 to 5, and it was symptoms were at their worst for sure. And it just felt like I was dying, and it felt to me like my soul was just screaming at me, this is not it. And my soul was saying, there's a different way we can help people. There is a different way we can support vertigo and tinnitus sufferers. And being in this institution and stuck with diagnostic testing and very rigid reporting protocols is not your jam right now. It doesn't mean it's bad, it just wasn't for me. And it's like it could have gone two ways. Part of me could have been really disappointed and felt like a failure, felt like a burnout, um, just felt like I wasn't up to scratch or felt not good enough in that setting. Or I could be like, you know what? I think there's bigger and brighter things out there for me, and this is not serving me, and my body is screaming at me, it's now time to leave. So it's the same
Mm.
situation and same scenario, but there's a different perspective. And one's coming from a place of gratitude, acceptance, trust in the body, and hope for the new Joey, the new what the future may hold. And I had to go through very dark, difficult, uncertain places to build that new Joey, but that was really what made the Rocksteady process and program and has now, reached people all over the world. So I say that because some of you listening might be in this space that's dark and you're not sure about your career. Maybe your body is screaming at you. Maybe big changes are ahead and it's scary. And I think it's okay to connect with that darkness, but also to light that candle of hope that, well,
Mm.
what if something brighter awaits you?
Completely, absolutely. And not to gloss over it, like you said, the darker times and the harder times are there. Like, even when you're trying to create something new for yourself or get your soul more into alignment, there's still times where it's like, I can't do this today, and that's okay. Tomorrow will be another day. And yeah.
And I guess there's a difference. I agree with what you said, and I just want to clarify. I feel like there's a difference between having a moment, a minute, an hour, or a day of feeling like a bit of a failure and being like, oh, I just totally don't know what I'm doing and I'm lost and confused and symptoms are loud. There's a difference between a moment or a minute or a day of that and a year of
Mm.
it or a
Completely.
decade
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
So it's okay to go through it, but we want to be able to move through the challenge and find the comfort and safety and regulate the nervous system so we can
Mm.
work with it. We can be with it and we can work with it. And those are the tools and the spaces that the Rocksteady program is designed to hold you through and give you that
Mm.
education. Um, as we wrap up our call, Brylie, I'm wondering, do you have any words of wisdom or encouragement that you feel you would perhaps give Brylie 8 months ago or a year ago?
Mm. Yeah, it's a very different version of Brylie 8 months ago, a year ago. It is that trust. It's just trusting in yourself and learning for me how to balance. It was all around balancing what am I avoiding and how am I actually supporting myself. So I do feel like I had to go through that. Like, I spent a long time on the couch. Like, I spent a long time in bed. And for me and my personal journey, I feel like I had to go through this and had to go through that. So yeah, my message would just be trust in that moment and trust that you can, especially with these type of supports, you can actually continue to reference a safety within you,
Mm,
even if everything feels unsafe.
yeah. And I just want to say thank you for sharing your story about intuitively tracking down an Instagram post and just knowing there was something out there and being in tune enough to let the back of your brain hold on to that and have that sense of I'm ready now. I wasn't ready
Mm.
then, but I'm ready now, and following through because, some people do spend 10 years on the couch and it takes them a very long time to find this community and this support and this resonance and readiness. Um, and I'm really pleased for you that you found us and you're here.
Mm.
And thank you for feeling ready to share your case study. It's valuable.
Thank you. Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for this space. Like, as I said, it just came the right time and what I needed. And yeah, absolutely.
Mm. Well, I want to thank Brylie for sharing her story. And for those of you listening who want to join our community and begin the Rocksteady program, visit seekingbalance.com.au. We're a very supportive community, and there's the comprehensive educational resources, skills, and tools for you to have at your fingertips, which really has been life-changing for me and continues to teach me so much about myself and my relationship to the world around me, honestly, every day. So thank you, Brylie, and it's a bye for
Thank
now.
you.